This is the fastest speed. I never go the fastest speed, okay? For centering, I go a medium speed, okay? So we get the clay wet, we get our hands wet, and first is cone and dome. And for my first cone, you guys, you didn't see it, but while I was coning, I was also pushing down, because if you just cone, the piece will come right up off the wheel, right? Have I given this class a demo yet? No, it's the first one. So now we dome. Yeah, just stand however you need to. Dome is taking it down, and this is really nice soft clay for it, okay? And coning and doming 3 times at least for beginners, okay? 3 times at least. And this is what gets it on center. And sometimes they call centering wedging on the wheel. So you wedge at the wedging table first to realign the particles of your clay and get them all compacted and homogenized, right? Get it ready for centering. And then we wedge on the wheel, which is the cone and dome 3 times. So there's your dome. Dome goes flat. I'm gonna do a cone again. Now again, mine's 2.5 pounds. You guys are gonna do closer to 1.5, maybe 2 pounds. So yours won't be this big. We're looking for still hands. Okay, that's a cone. And we're gonna dome. All right. The next step, and by the way, these steps that I'm giving you, there's a cheat sheet in front of each wheel, right there. The next step is to enter. And I put my 2 thumbs together and I go straight down. Nose is over the center, thumbs are under the nose. I'm just pushing down. Now be very careful. It would be better for you to not go deep enough and to have too thick of a floor than to go too deep and have a thin floor and you've gone all the way through, okay? So, and you'll learn to get used to what the correct thickness feels like without seeing with your eyes, right? Using your fingers as your eyes. So I've entered, and some people enter with 1 finger or 2 fingers, but you have to brace that hand as it's going straight down, okay? Notice the hand that's not on the clay is always bracing the hand somehow or connecting the hand that is on the clay. So I cone and domed, I enter, and now I'm gonna open. And so I put my fingers down here. I'm going just a little bit deeper, and I'm using my left hand to steady and move my right hand to open. And I'm trying to hold my middle finger as vertical as possible because I don't want walls inside that slope. I want them to be vertical like the cylinder challenge. If your fingers start to get dry while your hands are on the clay, you need to get them wet, okay? Because there should always be a nice wall of water between your hands and the clay, otherwise the clay tears. But when you put your hands on the clay and take them off the clay, you should do it slowly. So now notice every time I put on and take off, is it sudden, is it fast, or is it easy on, easy off, okay? Now I should start slowing my wheel down because the clay is going out, okay? So now I'm at a medium low, and I'm still not done opening it. We want to open it to about 3 inches. I think I'm there, okay? You guys are welcome to get up at any time and look inside and move from where you are and come take a close peek, that's fine. Now inside I might have a puddle of water. Evan, can you see this okay? You want to make sure you have no puddles, so you just get a dry sponge in there and absorb the water up. Also, I kind of have a dip. I don't like that, and I have rings. I want it to be flat. So I'm going to take my fingers in, bracing my hand, gentle pressure, pushing down a little bit on the outside of the floor, and then just gliding my fingers over the rest of the floor into the center, just to even out that floor a little bit, okay? Some of these are fine details that you don't have to worry about on your first try. On your first try, you just want to try to attempt to do and learn how to do and know the order of the basics. Again, this is your cheat sheet behind you. All right, so my next step is what's called collaring or collaring in. The walls naturally flare out. You don't have to ask them to do that. So before we pull them up tall, we're going to point the walls in so that when we pull them up and they're trying to flare out, they'll be straight and not flaring out. And we also should have our wheel at a medium low, okay? Because a high speed and tall walls equals going to flare out, all right? So I use a pull. It's called the knuckle pull. I make a little notch here at the base, and my knuckle or my fingertip or my fingertips are going to be on the outside, and my fingertip or tips on the inside are going to be just a little bit higher. Just a little bit higher. Inside hand, outside hand. The whole way. This finger is pushing the clay out, and this finger is pulling it up. I also like to lock my hands for stability. I also like to have a damp sponge in my hand because my hand is going to be on the clay for a bit and it could get dried out. And I just get a little bit of squeeze and the water will come between my hand and the clay and it won't get dried out, okay? So there's a lot going on here. Give a little outside water. Here we go. Knuckle pull. Now these walls are so thick that I'm going to spend some time going from bottom to top. Gentle pressure in a straight down to up vertical line, staying in one place vertically. See how I'm just staying in the one place? And your fingers will need to determine how thick the wall is. In thicker areas, you'll give pressure for a longer amount of time. In thinner areas, you'll let off on the pressure, okay? So when I come off, it's easy off. See how the clay walls are trying to flare out? A little bit? So that's why this is way big. You guys don't need to throw a cylinder this big. I think I'm doing it large like this just so everybody can see from where they're sitting. Now, typically the widest part of the wall will be at the bottom where it meets the floor. Like the walls might be like this, and then when you get to the bottom, it's like that. So we're gonna move some of this clay up into a taller vessel, okay? Feel free to throw out questions as we go. All right, so I'm going to, see how my thumb is resting on my outside hand? I'm always trying to link my two hands together somehow. Do you guys see where my right elbow is? It's jammed into my rib. Look how I'm braced up. Where are my knees? Where's my nose? My nose is directly over the line of activity that my hands are doing. So everything's intentional. It's braced up. My body is braced up. My foot is on the floor. I'm not over here talking to my neighbor, looking at their piece while I'm throwing, okay? You have to give all your attention right here. All right, so I think that meets the requirements of the cylinder challenge. If you still have stubborn thickness down here, this is a little bit of an advanced move, but I'm going to show you anyway. My walls at the bottom are still a little bit thicker than my walls up here. And this could be more vertical, and I could compress the walls of the clay. This is the answer to all three of those things. Make sure it's clean. If it's not, sponge it off, get it wet. Now, watch how I hold this angle. From where you're sitting, it might be tricky for you, but I'm first using it to slowly cut into that clay, but then I'm keeping it at an angle that pushes clay. You should see this getting taller. It's pushing the clay up. Is it getting taller? A little bit? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this compression, what it does is it strengthens the walls. You're going to see a lot of milkshake clay that just came off the walls. All that weight off the walls makes stronger walls. The walls even look more compressed. Ribs will compress. That means it's a stronger wall. And then some of that fat clay down at the bottom is now up in height. Very good. Okay. All right. Now I'm going to collar in the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 wet, evenly placed apart points of contact that just sort of makes the opening a little more narrow. All right, cylinder challenge. I think we got you. I might need to make the wall a little more straight, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. What if your top is not level? What if it's like this? Okay, and mine's a little not level. So what you do is you find the lowest. You don't stop your wheel. You notice I don't stop my wheel the whole time while I'm throwing. Keep your wheel going, right? Keep it going. If I'm really low, say right here, if my lowest point is right here, let's say it's right here, then I'm going to go down a little bit lower than my lowest point and watch what I do, okay? And this is at a very slow speed, medium slow. So my lowest point, and I go down a little bit lower, my needle tool is going to stay in the same place. I'm slowly dragging it in. Look at my left index finger. It's waiting patiently for a slice, and off we go. Okay, so you have to wait for that. And about these walls, maybe this is why on the picture they looked a little fatter. These walls are kind of angular, so you just, with your flat sponge, damp, you give it a little squeeze, a little hug, soften it. Especially if you're gonna drink out of something like this, right? Okay, now, the pre-cut, this little 90-degree notch at the bottom, this is again because of all that accumulated clay, but it also, if you have a little notch in there, it helps you to lift your piece off the wheel. Now I already know I'm gonna need a bigger board. Jordan, can you hand me a bigger board, please? Thank you so much. This will do. All right. There's two ways to do this. Beginners might find this way a little easier, just like this, just like a pencil. Watch what my right hand is doing, but pay attention to what my left hand is doing. Addison, what is my left hand doing? It's moving and bracing the tool, huh? Okay. And when I hear that sound, that means the tip of the tool made contact with the wheel head and I've sliced through. I'll show you a more aggressive way to do that might yield a better result, and maybe you can work your way up to it. And if you want to go the simple way, you can. Again, the simple way is just fine. You go like this. This is a really nice sharp needle tool. Gavin, will you go take the sponge out of the trigger of the power washer? All right, so if I wanted to be more aggressive, I will hold it more at an angle, not like this, but kind of parallel to the wall. Go up a little higher, and I'm not so diagonal, but I'm more vertical, parallel to the wall. And I'm just pushing in and down, right? I'm not going in with such a sharp entry as I did the last time. So either way, the first way is probably a little bit easier for beginners. And now let's get this off the wheel, okay? My little pre-cut notch disappeared, so I'm just gonna make that notch. Yeah.
Do you want me to take it out of the water too?
Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. All right, I just got a bunch of junk on my cylinder, but that's all right. I'll get it off later. Removing the piece, you're gonna go at the slowest possible speed. You wanna make sure your wire cutters, these are very long. If I was sitting at the potter's wheel, I would exchange these long wires for something way shorter. But anyway, you wanna make sure they're relatively clean. You want them taut. You're going to push down on the wheel head and away. And when you see the string on the other side, you know that the piece has been separated from the wheel. You wanna have your landing pad within your line of vision and not compromised and in the way of everything else. You don't want competing things bumping it. You're going from here to here. And once you start this, it's about 3 seconds. It's not rushed, but you can't hesitate and there's no going back. If you bobble it, or you hesitate, or you pause, you're gonna be holding this piece, which is very wet, and you're going to alter it. Okay, so I'm gonna slice through, I'm gonna get these out of my hands, and I'm gonna take my hands like this. They're gonna go in, make contact with the bottom of the piece, and they're gonna lift and go opposite the wheel. In, up, opposite. In, up, opposite. That's what you're gonna see in a very fluid movement, okay? So slicing through, out, in, up, opposite, just like that. See how you can't hesitate? Now, don't worry too much about it was deformed, it was bobbled, it was altered. I'm not gonna touch it. I'm not gonna say, go back, no. I'm gonna wait till this sets up and becomes soft leather, and then I'm gonna tap it back into shape, and it's just fine, it'll work. Okay, did that show you something that you hadn't seen before? All right, pick 1 or 2 really good habits and try to implement them today. Who's ever on this wheel, you can have my setup. Everybody else, let's wedge some pieces and get on the wheel and get some time.